Another stinky question. We find out that he's Jewish in this series. Was Stinky always Jewish in your mind, or is that something that occurred to you when you were coming up with the new stuff?
Um, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I never mentioned it, never wrote about it in any of the hates until now, until this business. But yeah, again, it's like some of the people, a handful of the people who inspired stinky people I've known. There's one archetype which is a Jewish guy that doesn't want anybody to know that he's Jewish. If you ask them if you're Jewish, they'll do this long thing about how, well, it's like, I'm not religious. It's like,
Yeah,
that's not what I meant, you know. But to be honest, it always made some kind of sense to me if he was, but there never was any reason to put that in a story, to make it a story. But since I was with this hate revisited, since I was writing about um, the very first time they met, I thought, well, maybe that's something that would come up. Maybe that's something that Stinky would want to make crystal clear right away is that he's not Jewish.
it's so funny that he brings it up. He said, "What
Right.
did Kevin tell you I'm Jewish? Because I'm not." It's like nobody
Right.
asked.
And then when I came, the other thing too that made me figure out, well, I should make this a factor is when I realized I thought it'd be great if Buddy winds up meeting his mother, of course, much later. And I thought, well, maybe when he meets his mother, maybe there'll be something about her where she really seems Jewish, or somebody that might have been Jewish. So, and that would make it come back. So that's where I thought, well, maybe I'll have Stinky will say this thing, that in passing, defense of
Yeah,
these things not Jewish. And I said, okay, and that'd be funny but he confirms from his mother that yes, he is.
yeah. Her asking Buddy if Stinky ever reconnected with his Jewish roots or whatever is a pretty
Right.
funny payoff.
Yeah. Well, I made myself laugh too when Buddy went, hell no. It's just furious. But of course he can't say to her, well, the reason I'm asking is because I'm getting this Jew vibe from you. But when I first met Stinky, he made a point of saying he wasn't Jewish. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not that rude.
Yeah, and incidentally, it's funny, but Jay mentions that he's Jewish in his first appearance, and I think it literally never ever comes up again.
No, no, I forgot that. I even forgot that I mentioned that he was Jewish. That's
Yeah,
funny.
he talks about maybe I should move to Israel and live on a kibbutz.
Yeah, well, I didn't even change the name. There was a guy I knew in high school who was Jay, and it's terrible. His name was Jay Spano. I didn't even change his name,
Oh,
which is a Spanish name, except that, and I don't know if he ever confirmed it or not, but in that house that he lives in, this big, old, dilapidated mansion, and where Jay lives, that's where the Jay that I knew lived. The attic was like, it was an old apartment for servants. He had a whole apartment with a working kitchen to himself, but it used to be where servants used to live way back in the day. But yeah, I remember, even though his last name was Spano, um, I remember getting, this sounds terrible. I remember getting a real Jew vibe from his mom. I was like, all right, well, his mom must be Jewish. Because there's nothing Hispanic about her. She seems very Jewish. So I don't know. I guess it's the same thing.
one of those Spanish crypto Jews, I guess. That
Yes.
that
Sephardic.
yeah, yeah. That scene where Buddy meets Stinky's mom is incredible. It's so sad and melancholy and touching, and it really feels like it's making everything from the old flashbacks in the Neat Stuff days come full circle back around to everything that's happened since then, all the way through Hate. I really loved that scene.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I figured that when you meet her, it would explain a lot about how and why Stinky was the way he was. For one
Yeah,
thing, obviously, she was a hippie lady. So just in the house that they lived in, he was exposed to everything. He was exposed to, you know, pornography. Might have been hippie pornography, but it's still pornography and, sexually explicit material, drugs. He's stealing her speed. He's stealing her pot. and she doesn't really care that much. So there's no boundaries there. He can't with his mom. He can't. There's really not much to push against, which makes him just push harder and harder and harder
Yeah.
until he's riding a swing all the way around the pole.
Right. Right. Well, I also really liked in issue 3 how Alexis, Babs's daughter, is so glad to see Buddy and Lisa. She's really come a long way since that scene in Hate where Lisa's asking if she wants to draw and she doesn't want to draw anything. And Lisa's thinking, well, how about I draw me throwing you off a cliff? It's so nice to see that they finally get along now. Because Alexis really used to think that they were just a couple of weirdos, but now she's like so
Well,
happy
that's
to
just
see them.
it. That's just it. As then they moved away. They moved back to the West Coast, Buddy and Lisa. But yeah, I guess her and her brother, just the thing, they were kind of cool. Uncle Buddy and Aunt Lisa, they were kind of cool. They were different. They were kind of cool people. So yeah, compared to, our mom's a nurse, who almost married a Muslim, a lazy Muslim. Uh, so
Has that been your experience that kids who may not like their weird older relatives can become closer as they grow up?
it would depend on what the kids themselves are like. If they wind up either becoming somewhat different or thinking of themselves as different or open-minded, then they'll develop a warm spot for the weird
Yeah.
relatives. Whereas especially if they were raised and told that's your weird uncle, that's your weird aunt, watch out.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, they were kind of cool. It's like now, I remember hearing this music at their house or seeing this art at their house, and now that's my favorite stuff. And they knew all about it way back when.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like you were always dropping hints and hate that Tyler might be gay. Is he really gay, not gay, as Alexis puts it?
Right. That's a term that I referred to somebody who I knew back in Seattle who had good looking guy, had lots of girlfriends. He wasn't gay, but he gave off such a gay vibe. So not to his face, but I always would refer to him as gay, not gay, you know. And so yeah, with Tyler, yeah, because he liked to cross dress and stuff
Right.
like that. But of course, I could also think of 1,000 instances where it's like, is this kid gonna grow up gay and he or she doesn't? They
Hmm.
just don't. The same with a girl who might be particularly butch when they're young and likes to play with trucks and like sports, and then they get married and have 5 kids. I thought it'd be funny to make since mom has Mom Bradley developed this late stage homophobia.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be funny that she might not have minded it so much at the time, but now she has like what for her would be bad memories of Tyler always dressing up in his mother's clothes, you
Yeah.
know. And so now she's like, oh, well, I keep hearing that that's a sure telltale sign. Nobody outgrows that shit. That's what they
Yeah.
say. You know?
Well, and then he's a waiter in Miami, and even Buddy is
Well,
like,
yeah,
"Come
of
on."
course. So he's gay, not gay.
Yeah. Do you foresee that Bab's new relationship with Jay will last?
uh, yeah. Well, if he stays on the wagon, sure.
Hmm.
Why not? You know, Jay's an intelligent person. So here I am talking about a fictional character. But how I think he's a totally intelligent person. He just has a fatal flaw. If he could keep off the stuff, then the sky's the limit, and he could, a career, a business, a relationship. He can make any of them work. It's just that he's fallen off the heroin addict several times,
Yeah.
and that's what screws things up.
Do you think Bab's true love was always Tom, the cop?
Yeah. No, I'm sure that it'd be like, at the time, he's the boy that kissed her, so of course she has a thing. He kissed me. I guess we're getting married. Um,
It was nice to see him again, however briefly. Those panels where he's macking on her again are really funny.
right. Um, but yeah, but I'm sure that as years have gone by, that'd be something that Babs would recollect and just go, ew.
To talk about where Butch ends up again, does the thought of living out in the woods away from civilization hold a particular fascination for you? Because, of course, you did Apocalypse Nerd, but
Right.
there's also that two-page strip in Neat Stuff where like Buddy is talking to Tom and Kevin about his living out in the woods fantasy.
Right. Um, well, yeah, there is something somewhat appealing about it, especially like living off the grid, which I find of which I find fascinating. I once pitched that as a comic. I once pitched to, I think it was to DC to do a series about I was gonna make it could have been anybody, but I remember pitching as like a young female, somebody with no survival skills. It'd be kind of like a young girl version of Apocalypse Nerd,
Hmm.
and they didn't buy it though. But yeah, I was very interested in the whole idea. Still am of living off the grid if you can manage it. But I don't pretend to have any survival skills, even for me, like going to a small town, like even a small town like where you are, um, like if I'm taking a drive through the woods or if we stay at a B and B in some small town, it's always there's this 24-hour period where I think I could live here. I could definitely live here. This is the thing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're gonna do. Small town or the woods. But then like the next morning, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here.
Is this truly the end of Hate, or could there be another miniseries in the
Well,
future?
at least from the people who actually bought it and read it and liked it, like all the people who were telling me that they really loved this Hate Revisited series, they also are all asking me to do more. And I haven't ruled it out, but I need stories. It's like I touched on some things, especially with Butch, that I could keep going with, but I need more than that. I'm not going to make it all about Butch. So if I get a burst of inspiration, come up with a whole bunch of new story ideas, then sure, then
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep going.
Have you considered perhaps a Marvel style what if series where instead of it's what if Gwen Stacy had lived, you could have what if Stinky had lived?
Oh, well, no, I haven't thought of that. Um,
Or what if Buddy married Sally, the crazy girl from Starbucks?
oh, there you go, that girl. Um, I haven't thought about doing that either. Yeah, well, yeah, I would need uh I would have to have I'd really have to have a great story idea. Like if for some reason something struck me, it's like, what would that be like? And suddenly flooded with story ideas for a what if, then I would do it, but nothing has occurred to me along those lines.
Okay. Well, then can I ask what your next project is going to be?
I don't really have one. For Reason Magazine, at least two, three, four times a year, I've been doing these 4-page biographies of various historical figures. And that will eventually be a book collection, but I don't know when that would be, when that would come out. I'm always worried that the Reason Magazine is going to say, we don't want to do those anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, then I'll just take all the ones I've done and put out the book collection then. Um, and that's a lot of work doing those because that involves homework. It's like when I was doing those biographical graphic novels, just the homework alone took up more time and energy than actually drawing the thing.
Well, yeah, you've mentioned your interest in doing a Brian Wilson biography, and if that ever happens, I would really be looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah, and I'll think about. I hear he's not doing so great, and he is old, so I would think more earnestly about that when he passes. Not like I'm wishing for him to die, of course, but um, yeah, because whenever somebody famous dies, there's always a lot of stuff that you find out once they're gone.
Yeah,
And it's not like I think he might have secretly killed somebody, but there's always some things that have been kept, always things that have been kept under wraps and you don't find out about it until after they're gone. So there's that. But the other thing too that makes me second guess myself about doing like a Brian Wilson uh, graphic novel is his story has been told so many times. So, well, on the one hand, that tells you people are interested. They're interested in him. If there's been so many docudramas and biographies and autobiographies. I think he's written his own, told his own story two or three times. Um, so obviously there's a huge appetite for it, but at the same time, it's like, what am I going to say that all these other biographers haven't already said? Even if the only thing that would be different about it is that it's a comic book, you know. So I also it's like I love all of the Beach Boys. I'm a big Beach Boy fan, and I don't take sides. I love Brian Wilson, but I also love Michael Love. I'm like the only one.
How about the Mike Love
So
biography?
well, more like what it would be hard to do because there were five, sometimes six of them. But I tried to think about would it be possible to do like a Beach Boy biography, a graphic novel, but it's about all of them, you know?
Yeah.
But that might be too difficult to do to tell the story of five and six people, in 80 pages. I mean, it would
How,
have to be, I'd have
yeah.
to time limit it somehow, I wouldn't be writing about them now, I'd probably be all 60s, 70s stuff.
How
I
about
don't know.
just more Murray Wilson rock and roll dad?
There you go. Oh, that cartoon, which I created, that, in case whoever's watching this or listening to it doesn't know, uh, got around just during the dot-com boom around in the early aughts. There was this old animation channel called Icebox, and they had a lot of money behind them. They commissioned all these. What they would do is team up an artist or a cartoonist with a writer, a comedy writer, and have them come up with a short cartoon show. They're like 4 or 5 minutes long. And so there's a comedian I know named Dana Gould, and we both I can't remember which came first. Us talking about doing something for Icebox, or if we were just talking about something totally unrelated. But we had both had just seen a Beach Boy documentary, um, and we were both laughing about the character of Murray Wilson. In the show, he seemed so over the top, so Jackie Gleason, and Jackie Gleason meets Archie Bunker, and also Dana Gould personally knew the actor that played Murray Wilson, so he was laughing twice as hard just because he's watching his friend act like a lunatic. So then Icebox asked us to come up with a show, and we talked about it, and we're like, well, we both got a lot of laughs out of that Murray Wilson character. Do you think we could get away with doing a cartoon show about just making up our own cartoon show about this actual human being? And they said, yeah, they greenlit it, and we made four of them. And we had so many ideas. We still had so many ideas. You wouldn't think so, but we had a million ideas for
Well,
that show.
you did some strip where you sent him back in time, so
Right.
the
Yeah,
possibilities are limitless.
that's right. And yeah, and I did a strip where because how can you not? I did a strip where through Murray Wilson's son Dennis, he meets Charlie Manson. So there's like a million things we could have done with that. Like if Murray Wilson wound up producing Charlie Manson,
Yes.
maybe we could put out a record. We're gonna take the world by storm, kiddo. So yeah, there was a lot of material to mine there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm amazed he didn't get sued, but maybe he'd sue now. I
Yeah.
don't know, or his
There
estate would.
are we well, I don't know these people. Like Dana Gould works and lives in Hollywood. So he's met Beach Boys or Beach Boy adjacent people. He's met a lot of celebrities, and he's met some people. He knows some people that knew um, Brian Wilson's mother, Audrey, the Wilson brothers' mother. Um, and we showed her as a tipsy drunk and an enabler, and Dana said that they were mad about that. We could do whatever the fuck we want with Murray, the child beater, but they're like, man, why'd you have to go after Audrey? And the answer is because it was funny.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for being so generous with your time today, Peter. This has been
Yeah,
a real privilege, and thank you again for Hate Revisited. It was funny and touching and all those things, and just a delight to see Buddy and everyone else again.
sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for your interest, and I really appreciate the bits that you've already made.